The 2021 Formula One season was reaching its most intense phase. With just 4 races left on the calendar, tension ran high, and why wouldn't it? Only 19 points separated Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. The battle wasn't just between two drivers, it was a head-to-head between experience and youthful hunger. Naturally, fans and drivers alike had their own views about how it might all end. Among them was Charles Leclerc, someone who knew Max better than most. Their rivalry wasn't new, it stretched back to their karting days, and had reignited ever since Leclerc joined Ferrari. Years of competing against the Dutchman gave Leclerc a unique perspective. When asked who he thought might walk away with the crown that year, Leclerc didn't hesitate. He admitted it was a tough call, but followed his instincts. According to him, Max had shown more raw pace at several races during the season. That speed, he believed, might just be the edge Max needed to finish on top. Yet he didn't count Lewis out either. Leclerc emphasized how Hamilton's strength wasn't always in outright speed, but in his unwavering consistency. Just when you think he's out of the fight, Lewis somehow finds his way back into it. The Ferrari driver summed it up as a razor-thin contest. But if he had to pick, based on gut feeling, he'd lean toward Max. Leclerc also offered his thoughts on the difference. In their driving styles, Max, he said, tends to be a bit more aggressive while Lewis opts for a cleaner, more calculated approach. He appreciated the challenge both posed, but admitted that going wheel-to-wheel with Max was especially thrilling, always pushing limits, always on edge. Max Verstappen wasn't just going up against Lewis Hamilton, he was stepping into the space once held by Sebastian Vettel, the man many once expected to be Hamilton's long-term rival. As the 2021 season reached its final stretch, Vettel voiced his hopes for a fierce finish. Speaking from his own experiences, Sebastian brought a unique point of view. He mentioned how much he admired battles where both drivers showed mutual respect. In his words, what fans were witnessing between Max and Lewis was the kind of rivalry that motorsport should always have. Intense, but fair. Sebastian said he hoped Verstappen would have a strong car and solid positioning by the time the season ended, giving him a real shot at winning the title. Reflecting on his own attempts, Vettel acknowledged that during his fights with Hamilton, his car just didn't match up, especially in the later stages of 2017 and 2018. Hispania lacked the consistency to truly trouble Mercedes. As a result, he watched Hamilton cruise to championship wins that, to him, didn't face the level of resistance fans were now seeing from Max. After joining Ferrari in 2015, Vettel had dreamt of adding to his 4 titles, but that dream remained unfulfilled. He admitted that being in the shoes of either Max or Lewis, competing for a title in the season's final rounds, was something any driver would love. For Vettel, those battles were the heart of why he fell in love with racing. In the first place, Charles Leclerc wasn't the only one who had raced Verstappen since childhood. Esteban Ocon also went way back with the Dutch driver. Their first face-off came in 2010 during karting, a time Ocon remembers as especially tough. With limited resources and just his father by his side, he was racing against top-tier teams and high expectations. By the time 2014 rolled around, Max Verstappen was already turning heads. That year, he collected 10 wins in his debut season in European Formula 3, and those performances were enough to earn him a seat at Toro Rosso in Formula 1 for 2015. But for Esteban Ocon, who actually won the F3 championship that same year, watching Verstappen move up before him wasn't easy to accept. Ocon recalled the moment clearly while he celebrated his own success on track. There was no solid plan waiting for him. He had done a few tests in GP2, but there wasn't anything confirmed. Meanwhile, Max had already secured a Formula 1 contract. The contrast was stark. Ocon had the title but no seat. Verstappen had a seat while finishing third in the standings. At the time, the Lotus F1 Junior program, which supported Ocon, was going through internal problems. The future looked uncertain for him, and the opportunity he hoped for felt just out of reach. He admitted it was a hard moment to take in. Still, instead of letting it defeat him, he turned that disappointment into fuel. He doubled down on his efforts, determined to keep progressing in the junior series. For Ocon, reaching Formula 1 wasn't about beating Max, it was about standing on the same stage. And when asked about Max's chances in the 2021 title race, Ocon didn't hesitate to share his view. He acknowledged that Red Bull and Verstappen had shown more pace for most of the season, but when it came to putting his trust in a team to turn things around, he believed Mercedes and Hamilton still had what it took. In his words, Red Bull had the edge, but he was backing Lewis to claw his way back in the end. Kimi Räikkönen, one of the most seasoned competitors in Formula 1 history, held the record for the most race starts, an incredible 345. With his extensive experience and his 2007 world title, Kimi's viewpoint carried weight. When asked about the intense battle between Max and Lewis in 2021, he offered a calm and balanced take. He said that the ideal outcome would be for the championship to be decided through clean racing, not due to mechanical failure or off-track circumstances. In his view, that would be the fairest way to determine who truly deserved the title. A championship settled on the circuit, through skill and strategy, would be a win not just for the drivers but for the sport itself. Daniel Ricciardo, who had spent years sharing the grid with Hamilton and had once been Verstappen's teammate at Red Bull, also had a lot to say. Between 2016 and 2018, Ricciardo witnessed Max's rise firsthand. Now driving for McLaren, he could fairly assess both contenders, having raced alongside each of them during key points in his own career. From a fan's point of view, Ricciardo believed Max had an advantage in terms of public appeal. He mentioned that people often root for someone new. If Verstappen were to take his first title, it would be a fresh storyline, something that could energize fans worldwide. According to Ricciardo, that kind of change always attracts attention. However, Ricciardo's main wish wasn't about popularity. More than anything, he hoped the championship would be settled fairly, without misfortune swinging things for or against either driver. He said it would be frustrating to see bad luck ruin what had been such a close contest. For him, both Max and Lewis had earned the right to be champions, as long as things stayed level until the final flag. George Russell, who was set to join Mercedes as Hamilton's teammate the following season, also weighed in on the title race. With a close-up view of the competition and an understanding of both team dynamics and pressure situations, Russell had a clear opinion. He believed that Lewis and Mercedes, having gone through this championship battle many times before, had a crucial advantage. Russell pointed out that experience counts, especially when things get tense near the end of a season. Mercedes had been in this position repeatedly over the past 7 years, and Lewis had already proven that he could handle pressure when it mattered most. According to George, that calm under pressure might be the deciding factor. Even though Red Bull and Verstappen had shown impressive pace all year, Russell leaned toward the more experienced side. Mercedes, in his view, speed alone wasn't going to seal the championship. It would come down to who could handle the intensity better, and in that department, Lewis had the edge. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas, who was nearing the end of his time with Mercedes before moving to Alfa Romeo, shared his own thoughts. While he still had a mathematical chance at the title after the Turkish Grand Prix, he was realistic. He admitted that if he couldn't take the crown himself, he'd want it to go to Lewis. Bottas also commented on the close interactions between Lewis and Max. He didn't see the rivalry as hostile. Instead, he thought it was simply the result of two highly competitive drivers pushing hard on the track. From his point of view, there wasn't any lasting friction, just intense racing moments that sometimes spilled over, with just a handful of races left and every point holding massive value. The 2021 championship race was heating up like never before. Max Verstappen's 9th win of the season in Mexico pushed him 19 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton, but the fight was far from finished. With 107 points still available thanks to remaining races, sprint formats, and fastest laps, anything could still happen. Max's back-to-back wins gave him serious momentum heading into Brazil. If he kept that form going through the next 2 rounds, there was a real possibility he could seal the title even before the season-ending Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi. At just 23 years old, Max was now the clear frontrunner, but those in Formula One knew better than to call it early. Championships aren't decided until they're mathematically locked in, and Hamilton was known for pulling off strong finishes when it counted most. Even with a lead, Verstappen couldn't afford to relax. One poor weekend, one mechanical issue, one wrong strategy call, that's all it would take to shift everything. He understood that nothing was guaranteed until the numbers confirmed it. As fans around the world watched this high-stakes battle unfold, the excitement wasn't just about who would win. It was about seeing two drivers at the top of their game push each other race after race, corner after corner. Whether Verstappen held on to his lead or Hamilton pulled off a comeback for the ages, this season was already being remembered as one of the most thrilling in recent memory. The outcome might still be unknown, but one thing was certain. The 2021 season had delivered the kind of racing drama that fans would talk about for years.